What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday afternoon, and I'm doing a Friday afternoon Sims Chat Corner. I have to tell you that this is probably going to be the only highlight of my afternoon, with the exception of my children coming home. Because I have to say, to those that follow me or listen to me or are friends of mine, you already know I've been sick for 10 days now, and now for some strange reason I'm feeling sicker than a dog. But one of those things that genuinely tends to make you feel better is the either sound and or pretty face that I'm about to have on, which is, of course, Canadian cutie Marshall Dane. So without further ado, instead of me yapping, I'm going to let him do all the yapping because I got plenty of questions for him. So hold on one second and we'll get him on the line. Hey, is this Marshall?
You've got Marshall here, and I'm here to make you feel better.
Good luck with that one, darling. It's like, oh my God, this is insane. I mean, who gets sick this long? It's like 10 days. Come on now. Really?
It's just the time. I don't know. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, it's not your fault. You know, I've been sitting here looking at you all day, so I've been really hurt. I got to tell you, when you usually have somebody on the show, at least in my case, I was staring at you. So I'm looking at videos and I'm reading things, and you're quite the guy. I'm telling you, man, everybody wants you. You're all over the place.
What does a guy say to that?
He says, thank you.
Thank you.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
You're quite welcome. No, seriously, every time I turn around, people, I'm telling you, watch Facebook sometime and just watch. Every 35 seconds, Marshall Dane's going to be on this. Marshall Dane's appearing on this. Marshall Dane's appearing on that. I put your picture up on my page, and they're all like, oh, my God. I'm like, oh, look, it's a new God, Marshall Dane. You're, like, everywhere. I'm telling you, this is a good thing. You're everywhere. People like you.
Well,
doesn't hurt that you're
try my hardest
good,
to be
you know?
present. Pardon me.
Okay, this is a good thing. This is good. You know, I'm going to tell you, I'll start off by telling you my impressions, okay? How does this sound? Just listen to what I'm going to tell you.
All right.
Canadian creation Marshall Dane is the byproduct of a preacher papa and a motherly mentor. Audiences I've seen adore his lovely locks of blonde hair, how he feels the groove of his guitar, and the obvious likeness, in my opinion, to Leif Garrett. Have you ever been told that? You look like him.
That's so funny. I've heard that before.
Not surprising. Okay. Your tunes carry truth while your voice travels towards what I call rebel rock country. I find you immeasurably impressive for a younger fellow, and I don't want to say too young because, honestly, no one would tell me how old you were. Unless you want to tell me. Seriously.
I'm old enough.
I did my research. I couldn't. Oh, old enough. Yeah, you're over 21, doll. We got that much. Any kind of hints? Maybe just throw that out there. See, guys aren't as vain as women are, so you can tell me. I won't be shocked. I don't think.
I like pearl chicken.
Oh.
I got no hint.
That answers it all right there, doesn't it? Okay. I want to ask you something. We'll start with the first question. This is going to be a long interview. A good interview, but I got a feeling about you. Michael told me all about you. I'd like to start off where I usually start off, which is kind of sort of in the beginning. I know that at age 15, that was your first solo performance. Maybe tell your fans a little about the self-discovery made to pursue this path of music, and moreover, what lessons did you learn from just that first initiation into this art we call music?
Okay, where did it start? Where did I get the path, and what lessons have I learned?
Bingo.
At 15, I didn't know, I don't think, that I wanted to perform for a living. At 15, I knew that I loved to perform. I think I was still a kid. Well, mind you, I was groomed to be a preacher. That's what I was supposed to be, just like my dad. And I always wanted to be just like my father. And my father plays guitar, my father sings, but he's a preacher first. And so at 15, I just, was kind of following the family footsteps of playing. And I was the first person to take it outside of the, the family jamboree on Sunday and or you know, my mother playing in the house, you know, the piano while we would go to bed. That was the extent of how we had music, and of course listening to it all the time. So I was inspired at 12 to learn the guitar. I'd already learned how to play a little bit of piano on my own, and all my sisters sang. There wasn't a time that we would get in the car and not singing around. So it was just something that I loved. It wasn't until I was taken out, probably around 16 years old, because I just had my first gig, and I was, a residency there for 6 months every Friday and Saturday as a 15-year-old. And one of the preachers in my congregation took me out and said, you know, you probably shouldn't pursue a life of music. You know, that's not really God's work, you know, to go out and, you know, pursue that, because it would lead to a path away from what I was being taught. So I probably took a little rebellious action to that and started pursuing it even more. I believed in the preaching that my father did, but I also believed that I could pass a great message along, or a good message along, doing what I was doing, as long as it was accepted. You know, if I could have a few people that would enjoy listening to it, then I could also, you know, pass on goodwill and stuff like that. So by 17, I started getting little gigs in little bars and pubs in my local town. And it was just around, you know, maybe 19, when I had just gotten out of high school. I had, you know, I worked for a bank for a short period of time through high school and then outside of high school. And then I started playing more and more and more. And next thing you know, although I did have a good job at one point, had benefits and a security blanket that would have been great, I left it all to go on the road with the band. So, you know, I'd say just after high school was when I clicked into, yes, I definitely want to pursue this as a living. If I can do this 6 nights a week instead of doing something else, I would like that. So at that point, I've been doing it, you know, and I've been pushing, I mean, really only hard over the last, I shouldn't say really hard, I've been pushing to radio and stuff like that since 2009. Up until then, I was just loving music and playing it for me and whoever would listen. And as far as the lessons learned, I mean, that's just a whole day's worth of conversation, I think, because there's so much, there's ups, there's extreme ups. The highs from being on a stage and 30,000 people in Alan Jackson waiting in the wing to take over, to the lows of having $13 in your bank account and not being able to take money out of the bank machine because it only gives 20s, so you don't eat that night.
I hear you.
There's all kinds of, there's all kinds of ups and downs, but I mean, that's just like anybody's life. So, I mean, I would never complain about it. It's just definitely there's no plaque on the wall that says you've got at least in my case, I don't have a degree in music. I just have a passion for music. So every time you either get nominated for something, or you hopefully get a little award for something, or somebody recognizes something you're doing, or one person in the bar claps and looks at you and says, that was awesome. Those are the little things you hang on to and, you know, keep you progressing and feed the fire and the flame that is your journey. Period. The end.
No, I'm intrigued to ask this question because obviously you kind of opened Pandora's box in this description that you were talking about. So where does Dad stand now on all this? Your dad.
That's interesting. Dad now loves what I do. I think he's always respected and appreciated the fact that his son plays music. But it wasn't until, I don't know, some years ago, I remember it took a long time, because he still writes me a letter, you know, a handwritten letter a few times a year to mention to me, you know, about coming to the fold and coming back. But at the same time, he always couples that with, I am proud of you. I appreciate, you know, the passion you have for what you're doing, and you're a good kid, you know, that kind of thing. You know, so he's very supportive now, and so is my mother. They're both, you know, they're great. I do recall that some years ago when my dad was at a show and I got off stage, and he just looked at me and goes, son, I love it when you play, and I'm real proud of you. You know, I play some of his favorite songs, and songs I used to be embarrassed to play as a kid. for him or with him because they were just like, old folky Canadiana songs with yodeling in them and stuff. But now it's cool. Funny how the table.
This is way cool. Very, very awesome. Now, do you think, have you ever had an inclination, and this is just a side note, I'm curious, because your dad's a preacher, obviously, and you've been surrounded by that for quite some time. Have you ever thought to yourself, you know what, if I ever get enough crowd, if I ever get enough voice and enough audience, not necessarily preaching like your dad would, but kind of sort of, in another way, getting a message out there, is that important to you?
It's very important to me. It's fundamental to me. It's ingrained in me just to want to be that way. My parents love everybody. They try and, they're trying to help the world kind of thing. So, and that was what I was, taught from a young boy. So even now, I got the latest single, Alcohol Abuse, or on the previous record, Love and Alcohol, or on the current record, I'll Be Your Whiskey. Sure, I talk about things like that. But at the same time, it's not, let's go out tonight, let's get drunk so that we forget what, I don't really do songs like that. My songs are, hey, man, these are all these drinks that are spilling. That's not cool. That's alcohol abuse. It's about the fun side of having a good time. I do try to leave people with a smile. That's really my intent. It's not to, I want to dig into your heart a little bit and expose myself in a sad song so that you can feel that somebody else relates to you, hopefully, so that, that the audience can feel that. So, in the same sense, I do kind of, the good work that my father wanted me to do and that I feel is in my heart anyway. So, I try and help people when I can, and I think that's reflected in the songs I sing.
Perfect. And just as a side note to you, in case no one's ever told you, but I'm pretty sure you hear this all the time, pretty much you walking into any room and standing there, I'm pretty sure there's about 1 million women that are thinking, yeah, I got a message from this guy. Just throwing that out at you.
They got a message for me, is that what you said?
Yeah, they got a message. Yeah, they're transmitting a message to you, I think, subliminally, sort of like in the version of hot, gorgeous. You can't even believe the things I've heard about you. Yeah, that's right. I get to hear all that. There you go.
Oh, that's funny. Well, as long as they're talking.
We can't all be hot. We can't all be hot. That's all I'm going to say on that. I'm sitting here in pajamas and a hat, so I'm definitely not the version of hotness that anybody would want right now, so I'm good. I want to switch gears a little bit because, well, it's true. I did some obvious work in researching you, as I would anybody else, but I also found limited history that correlated, and I know you touched on this with the last question, meaning you're not degreed as it relates to musical education. So I wanted to ask, the part and parcel of your experience in vocalization, I want to find out where that came from, and then second of all, had you gravitated in specializing towards singing or the creation of song?
Okay, so when you're referring to vocalizing, you mean, or vocalization, you mean like me singing?
Singing, yes.
That part, okay.
Yeah.
This is kind of my theory. Just because of the way we were brought up, there's 7 kids in the family, there's, ended up being an 8th one later on. There's never been the ideas, even as a kid going through high school, we weren't in line to go to, university and college and get a big degree in anything. That we were supposed to, serve the church. So,
right.
When I took on the art of singing, or even the employment of singing, when I was doing it all the time, I always had the angle in my mind that everything I did, every song I sung, every performance was education for me. It was my university, and in order for me to get the most out of it, I had to pay attention to everything that was going on so as to learn the most I could with the cards I was, working with. So when it came to singing, I would spend, like every song I sing, I'm concentrating on how to do the vocal better, easier, more effectively, more honestly, all the different things I can think of. And so when I talk to somebody that has gone to a lot of vocal school, with a lot of vocal training, they'll send me a little tidbit. They'll be like, oh, you should do this when you warm up. And I'm like, well, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to go or? But then I figured out after doing it a few times, I'm like, oh, this is great. This helps to loosen up the face. It helps to start the vocal cords getting warmed up. I get it. So I would find the reason in it myself without having to necessarily have the chance to go to school and somebody explaining it to me. So I guess that's the bottom line, is I just really tried to pay attention to it. I would watch, you know, like Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard, when she sits there and she sings, Jesus loves me, yes, I know. There's no reverb.
Yes.
There's no instrumentation. It's just her beautiful voice. And I thought, well, so I started singing without reverb on stage. I would just not have any because I wanted to make sure that I held the note to the very last beautiful, sweet second so that, you know, it wasn't up to the person at the mixing board to make me sound good. I would try and give them all the good stuff so that all they'd have to do is, you know, make it sound better kind of thing. So I guess that's the bottom line. I just tried to really pay attention to it and, you know, and I'm constantly paying attention to it still. So that's the vocalizing. And what was the other question?
Let me just repeat that for you because I see you were listening. I am sarcastic, I've mentioned that. Had you gravitated towards specializing in singing as compared to creation of song? Because I know sometimes people can be a singer and a songwriter, but their true heart, their true passion usually will lie in one or the other. You follow me? Like they just prefer one to the other.
Yep. I would have to say I prefer singing. And the reason is because it's all in the moment. There's a lot of thinking, but it's split-second thinking. It's quick. It's fast-paced. Even if it's a slow song, there's a lot of, you know, things firing off, you know, in your head, and you're paying attention to a lot of things. I really enjoy that environment. I feel very comfortable on the stage. I love songwriting, you know, but I find that, you know, as it becomes more of not a routine, but as it becomes a busier way of life, the music industry for me, you know, songwriting comes when you're feeling emotional, whether good or bad, like, you know, up or down emotion, but it's also, you know, it's a process. You sit down, and I love co-writing. Like, it's so great to sit down with somebody else and try and come up with something. But I think if I had, you know, only two to do or one to do of those two things, I think I would say I want to be able to keep singing just because I could then go and sing all my favorite songs if that's what it came down to that I, you know, used to fall in love with.
Sure. Makes sense. Okay, I'm going to switch gears again. You're going to notice throughout the course of the interview that we do that because I don't do anything like your typical interviewer because otherwise I think it would be really boring, you know? If I don't die as I'm coughing here. Okay.
Let's make a left turn without signaling. Who cares?
Honest to God, when was the last time you did an interview? And don't lie to me. I want the truth. Have you ever done an interview with an interviewer where you were sitting there and thinking, oh, my God, they keep asking the same generic questions over and over and over again. It's the same old boring shit again and again and again. Does that ever happen to you?
I can't say I've ever had somebody ask me the same old questions. Pardon me?
Okay. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to get, I won't, I can't say they've asked me the same old questions. There have been times when it does sound kind of similar, each question, and or, you know, you're doing a written interview and it's like, wow, question number 1 is almost identical to question number 4. But, you know, otherwise, no. I talk a lot, so even if they ask the same question, I'll just give a different answer.
No, there's a smart man. Okay, this is good. Well, hopefully by the end of the interview, I'll ask you, what do I got, 11 questions here? Hopefully these will be more original than some you've heard, but we'll see. We'll see if I did my job well. Now, this is a sidebar again. One thing that I took note is the fact that you're both a fan and a friend to mutual friends, actually 4 folks of mine who I consider to be celebrities of sin, as I call them. They also happen to be in my new book, because I just did a new book, and you should know this, Marshall Dane. If you like me enough that by the end of this interview you say to yourself, yeah, I kind of dig this chick, you have the opportunity a year from now to be in print, because that's exactly what I did. I've taken my last 2 years show guests, including Mr. Michael Stover. I don't know if you knew that or not. He's in my book as well. And I put him in a book, and then we published the book, and then everybody finds out about you. Yeah.
Sweet, that's great. That's perfect. I hope you like me enough by the time we're done to include me.
Well, we're in the courting stage right now. By the end, we get to the honeymoon, see how that works, and kind of feel each other
We're
out.
2 questions in. We got a long way to go.
Yeah, that's right, okay? A lot of pressure. We got a long way to go. Yeah, so namingly, and this is a selfish ploy to just name these people because I love them dearly, of course. Amy Rose, Deborah Patricia Wood, hands down one of my favorite people in the entire world. I have an allegiance to her that is undying. Colin Amy, and of course, Mickey Robertson of Western Avenue, same thing as Mr. Matt Williams, who I love as well. I don't know what it is about you people and the Kool-Aid you drink, but you're also damn pretty. I can't stand that. I'm just going to throw that out there. So I want to ask, first off, what specifically, relative to these guys, meaning, you know, Amy Colliner and Nikki, let's say, because these are Canadian musicians as well, what do you appreciate about their abilities, personally?
I appreciate what it takes for them to be them and to pursue and to survive, you know, with their passion in the music industry. I think that would be the biggest thing. They're my peers.
Okay.
They're my friends. They relentlessly pursue their passion. I know that it's not, you know, all rodeos and pickup trucks for them. You know, there's a lot of, you know, other sides to the story, and it's, you know, can be a little, it's a daunting task at times, you know, just because the business part of it doesn't allow you to just be the loose artist you once were, no matter who you are, because the more successful you get, the busier you are. The busier you are, the less time you have to sit back and wait for the feelings to hit you when you know, pick up your instrument. So, yeah, I'd say that's the big thing, man. I respect all those kids for, you know, how hard they work.
Exactly.
Yeah, everybody's a cool kid.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, that's nice. He's got a bonus point right there for that one. You got to give it to you, that one. The kid thing's nice. Nice touch. I did also notice that you obviously shifted your residency from Canada to Nashville. So maybe you could detail for us a bit the difference in impact that music carries in both areas, obviously, because music in Nashville and music in Canada, I'm certain, are 100% different, or at least close to it, not only in exposure, but impact and such. So maybe touch on that a little bit for us.
Sure. I'll just qualify and clarify that I didn't actually move my residency to Nashville. The way I know it's we've got it written, I know I'm messing you up, but I'm sorry. Just because what it was I went down to Nashville to do a whole bunch of writing, and so it just kind of becomes your second home at some point because you're there so often. But said that, the reason I went down is because there's an extreme difference between what happens in Nashville and what happens in the rest of on the rest of the planet. Canadian country, Canadian music. I mean, well, Canadians are Canadians. Let's just put it this way. You know, Canadians have got their own kind of style of what they do, and Americans have their style of what they do, and it's beautiful when, just like songwriting, you get to share it like a collaboration, and or when you mix genres. When you go to Nashville, they write differently and they think differently than a guy that's, you know, from Canada. But said that, there's country music across the globe, and not all country music is Nashville country music, you know, and that's definitely the heart and the home of country music. But I mean, the world's changed a lot. The world's gotten a lot smaller, and now there's, you know, you got German country music, you've got Australian country music, you know, keep urban, and then you've got, you know, then you've got Canadians they're also doing country music, and it's basically the same root. Everybody's, I mean, the country scene, the country vibe is ethics, values, family, faith, you know, those kind of things, love, and so it's just a matter of where you are on the planet and how you express that same little MO. So it's nice when you go to Nashville and you get to see, you know, such a mecca of country music lovers, because it's, I mean, Nashville, the girl that is serving you at the restaurant is a songwriter. The guy pumping your gas is a songwriter. You know, like the gentleman you're buying gum from at the corner store, he's a songwriter. Like everybody, it's such a passionate writing area So it's nice when you get to go there. It's, you know, it's like going to France for the love and for the house. You know, you go to Nashville because you want to be inspired by all these people that are really just trying to write the best songs they can. So, yeah, I mean, in Canada, there's also great artists that do that, and it's not as condensed. So if you want the most kind of country area, you're going to go to Alberta. And you're gonna find guys out there that ride horses every day. You're gonna find guys with trucks, guys that fish. You know, it's all the same things that make up American country music as well. But it's just not as big of a mecca as some place like Nashville or Texas or Memphis, that kind of thing.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I want to turn to a silly question right now because I tend to like to do that. The more I can embarrass a guest, the happier I am. I know I probably shouldn't take pride in that, but it's
go for it.
Because sometimes life gets too seriously. So I'm like, I was looking at your website, as any good journalist would do, of course, and surely I say to myself, God, whoever markets this guy, whoever's ever responsible for marketing you, is pretty intelligent. Let me tell you why. You take the combination of a guy who can already sing. You take the fact that he obviously looks good. And then you incorporate things such as this. You have two things on your product line, one of which is a tank top, one of which is a boxer brief, geared solely and specifically to women. Now, that's pretty damn smart. So I say to myself, now, was this your brainchild or somebody else's? Or, because obviously this is a win-win for everybody. And really, you're one of the very few artists where I've ever seen anything specific, especially boxer briefs. I'm like, what up with that?
Well, I'll take credit for it because a few years ago, Yeah, right. I'm going to pat myself there for that one. If you think it's good, I mean, it was not by any divine inspiration or strategy. It was.
Really?
I mean, my thought was I can't afford to buy two types of merchandise. So I thought I'll just order tank tops. So the first tank tops we had that came in had a little crest, over the left part of the chest, and it just said Marshall, it had a little Marshall Dane kind of star going on. But when I ordered it, I also thought, you know what, because somebody said, well, we can get some samples in. So I said, well, I'd like to see a sample of a thong. And they said, huh? And I'm like, yeah, and so I looked at their list, and they actually had a thong where you could put the little Marshall Dane star right in the center. And I thought, let's just,
oh my God,
you never know, maybe it'll go over well. I mean, it's just a thing to have and just see the prices. So they ended up sending me a box of merchandise to sample, and they didn't put the thongs in there. Instead, they put these little black and white boxer briefs in there, and they put my little Marshall Dane logo on the bum. And I thought, these are so cute. Like, I thought they were just cute. They were like boys' underwear, but for girls.
Yeah.
So I took them out to a show, and instantly they just took the underwear and the tank tops went. And I thought, you know what, if I have to invest in anything, I think these two items are the right thing. Instead of going for, T-shirts, extra large T-shirts, there's a lot of big dudes that want to come out to shows. There's people that don't want to wear tank tops. I get it, but I just didn't have the money. So that was why we ended up with that. Now, as it turns out, when I reordered, I'm like, I want red and white. I love red. It's my favorite color. White is a standard color, and that was the end of that. Now we just have tank tops and underwear. Yeah, we actually have T-shirts now, too, so that's good.
Look at that. See, now here I was under the impression that Marshall solely and specifically did this for two reasons. For one, because, if it is for a woman, they do have to model for you. You have to actually see how they look. And moreover, what guy does not want his name plastered across a woman's body?
I got to tell you, it's pretty cool when you're at a show and somebody walks out and sports the underwear or sports a T-shirt or a tank top. It's good. It's cool.
Oh, my God.
Happened.
Listen to that. All right, so I kind of figured as much. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm like, there's got to be, and that's cool. You know what? Because it's out of the ordinary. You are out of the ordinary, and that's not to say other artists don't do different things out of the norm, but that's cool. I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, if I had to think about what I wanted people Oh my God, I can't even think about what I want people to wear with my name on it. That's just strange. So we'll move along. If you think of anything, though, you can let me know, since you're the master of merchandise, apparently. So perhaps.
Oh yeah. Oh, just wait. It's coming to me.
Yeah, I figured as much. As long as it's something that will attract the attention of your fellow Canadian Keeper Sutherland, I'm down. I'm down. Anything. I've been trying anything I can to get his attention. So think of something for me, please, while I ask you this next question. Now, a significant slide up the scale, I would think, obviously comes, again, you had spoken about this a little bit earlier, that you were, of course, opening for the ever-eclectic Emerson Drive and, of course, the amazing Alan Jackson. So 2 questions there. First of all, how surreal is that scenario, meaning that you go from being where you are all of a sudden opening for such iconic individuals? And then second of all, was it humbling at all for you? Because you seem pretty confident to begin with that these are big-time guys.
So I was going to say it's humbling. That was exactly what I was going to say when then you went to your second line. It is, you know, I don't want to, I'm, how do I say this? I'm not the world's most confident guy. I get nervous just like everybody else. I get shy. You know, I love doing what I do, so I'm passionate about it, and you know, and so sometimes that can be looked upon as confidence in it, I guess. But it's never. I'm always grateful and thankful for every chance I get and every opportunity. I'm thankful and grateful for you putting me on the air right now. Like this is.
Thank you.
That's just kind of how I roll. So when you go and you're backstage with somebody as cool as Alan Jackson, and not to say that we hung out and drank beers. I mean, he's got security guards with necks bigger than my body. So, but it's a very cool experience. In your own mind, you're sitting there saying, I know people would love to be right here, right now, backstage where I am. Not even going on the stage and doing a show. They would love to just be right here because there's an energy. And these are, I mean, Paul Brandt. He's a great Canadian country singer, songwriter, performer, and I've had the glory of sitting there writing a song with the guy. And yes, it is as cool as you can imagine. So as exciting as you think it might be to be backstage with, Alan Jackson doing a show, it is. So it's a check, though, in your head because you realize that, wow, a lot of people would give a lot to have these opportunities. Don't screw it up. Don't take it for granted. Take advantage of it and be grateful. So, and yes, it is very humbling because these people, again, you look at them and you think, wow, I know how hard it is going this far. I know the road ahead, and you guys have conquered that road, and no matter how easy they make it look, they, the bigger they are, the more they have to be responsible for. So, yeah, it is a great experience, and it is humbling.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. I've said that to many people, too. I'm like, the one thing I like and the people that impress me the most are those that don't lose their humility, and especially at times where I've gotten lucky enough to meet the real-life celebrities, well, what they call real-life celebrity actors, and they're so not Hollywood-like. They're so not celebrity-like. They don't take anything for granted. They share what they have. They appreciate other people around them for whatever they bring to the table, and I always say that to people. I'm like, that's so impressive, and you don't lose your sense of humility. Don't get all full of yourself, as I always put it, because then people don't like you anymore, and then they don't, come to your shows and all that.
Yeah,
but I'm lucky I don't know anybody like that. Yet is what I'm saying.
No, I remember people telling me all the time that you got to watch.
Right.
Sorry about that.
No, go ahead. You have to watch.
I was going to say, people always say you got to watch. I'm jumping all over you. Go ahead.
That's okay. If I had to have a guy jump all over me, I guess it had to be Marshall Dane. Oh, God, I got a tough life. You're trying to say something, right? I'll listen. I'm just being quiet. I'm letting you finish. Then we'll move along.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that people always remind you to don't burn any bridges. And, because you're going to see some of those people on the way down if you come back down. And there's always a down. So, I mean, yeah, as far as being arrogant and cocky and, thinking that you deserve everything and or, that it's it's your right to have these things. yeah, there's not a lot of room for it. You don't make many friends that way.
Very good. And I suspect you probably made a shit ton of friends in your lifetime, and that's not surprising at all whatsoever because of who you are, what you've accomplished, and what you stand for. I'm just going to say that not because I've personally met you, but because of the way people speak about you. So, honestly, I was pretty nervous to do this show, but don't tell anyone, especially not that Marshall Dane guy. Okay. Moving right along. Let's talk some running stop signs, which, I could easily envision you doing on a regular basis. I could just see Rebel written all over your face. That's not surprising. I'd like you to share with the listeners the variety that was offered on this particular collection as compared to, let's say, your upcoming one, which is one of these days. Tell us how they're different. Talk to me about the difference. Excuse me.
Running Stop Signs was my first major production, full-length major production. It was everything I had until then that was on the plate and on the table at the time. There was all the excitement of where things were heading and going. And that particular album is, I'm not going to say, well, it's more about the wild times. You know, it's you know, even the song like Get to Where I'm Going, it's like it was tough wild times, you know, and or it was just, you know, there was a lot of emotions that went on. And so Running Stop Signs was just a blast of all the not careless things you do, but little things like running on a stop sign, you know what I mean? Nobody gets hurt, it's just you know, you do it because it's a youthful thing to do, maybe. So the album reflects that, I find. It's fun, it's exciting, it's deep, you know, but moving into One of These Days, the new record, that was a second full-length production that I was now involved in, and I had no idea about how I was going to do the record. It was only until I knew I could make Running Stop Signs and that I had the right songs and I found funding that I knew I could pull that off. One of These Days, I started writing it before I even had any idea of how I was going to secure enough money to record one song, let alone an album's worth. So it was a more serious, I was writing with a different mindset. I was curious and nervous and not skeptical, but questioning, I guess, you know, where's the future headed? And that was when I got up and went, again, I just got up and went back to Nashville. When I started writing that record, I actually flew out to the eastern part of Canada, did a 4-day festival there. Then I flew to Nashville to start writing. And then I went to the North Canadian Arctic right from Nashville, and I was out there for 3 weeks on a tour. And the Arctic experience, another conversation altogether, is a very humbling, very reflective kind of experience. So One of These Days had seen, when I started writing for that, it was all the rise and lessons learned throughout the previous 3 years, you know, and reflective of my whole life, but really the previous 3 years whilst putting out Running Stop Signs and the success it had and the change in the pace that was going on in my life. And if you listen to the lyrics of One of These Days, it's like, girl, we always say someday when it comes to leaving this town. And, you know, and it was a constant thing in my life where I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't take a vacation. I couldn't take time for myself. I couldn't take time for my family the way I wanted to. I couldn't take time for the relationship I was in because I was so busy. And then the beginning of 2011, I had been on my first tour. I had, you know, had a relationship that crumbled. I had, you know, then going to 2012, I lost someone that was so dear to my heart, and it all just came out in the songs. How do I get there from her till I get to you? They were all, it was all about how do I feel about this major stuff going on in my life and how do I go forward? So even like one of these days, the song and the kind of overall MO for the album was, it's about encouragement, it's about empowerment, it's about not saying, you know, hey, when I get around to it, I'm going to do this, and this will be good then. It's like, no, now is the time. Now is the time that you can make a change, whether it be something that you need to change that was not, you know, serving you any longer, or if it's just about, you know, empowering to go forward. So, I mean, there's a track on the album, Not Today, and it talks about everything from, you know, having a drinking, you know, substance abuse, right to, you know, carrying around a picture in your wallet, crumbled up picture that you keep looking at and keep reminding yourself of something you don't have anymore. And that song is not about wallowing in the past. It's about stop wallowing in the past. Today's the day you can make a decision and go forward. And you don't have to, you know, my father constantly used to remind me, son, you can only learn from the past. There's nothing you can do to change it. So you have today, and today's today you make the change for the better. So that's what one of these days is, and I think it reflects that. I think it's got a positive, happy vibe. Songs that should have been sad songs, we made them happy. We made them encouraging, found the light at the end of the tunnel. There you go.
Nice. Very nice. Now, I want to ask, Running Stop Sign, if you can remember, how many compilations came from you directly? Or in general, I guess I should ask, whether it's that one, that CD, this CD. Exactly how many are you, specific, just you sitting down, you writing, you composing?
On both records, there is a track or two that I wrote myself, specifically just myself. On both records, there are multiple co-writes that I wrote with other artists and other songwriters. And on both records, there are selections that we took from other songwriters that had great songs that hadn't been released yet or had never been released. They were just sitting in little cupboards. You know, like I have a collection of, you know, over 300, 400 songs at this point, and most of them will never, I mean, the majority of them will never see the light of day, just because that's just how it rolls. And when you're in Nashville and you're writing with somebody and you're in a session, and after 3 hours they get a real good idea of how you sound when you sing, what your personality is like, what kind of songs you could sink your teeth into and your heart into, then they, you know, they look at me and they say, hey, you know, now that we're done and we've written this great song, would you be interested in looking at this tune? Because I wrote this with another guy, and this is right up your alley. And then, of course, you know, you hear a bunch of them and they don't fit, but then you hear one or two or three and you're like, wow, I wish I wrote this song. And, you know, I didn't. And this will help put bread on your table, so I would like to add this to my collection. And so it never stops me from writing, and it never stops me from adding songs into my, you know, repertoire and or the list of songs that can be selected for a record. But the last two albums, which are different than what I did before I ever tried putting a song to radio, once you start making an album for radio and to actually sell in stores, you know, you're trying to put your best foot forward. So it's really about what are the best songs to put on this collection and which ones suit the collection the best. So, yeah, I mean, there's never been a pride issue with me when it comes to, do I have to write all the songs on my record? Not me personally. I mean, I know other people, that's their total thing, and I respect it and I appreciate it. And maybe, you know, and I'm thinking the next record I do, my third one, it will be a little different. It will be more songs that are my compositions. And that's for, you know, a bunch of reasons. You know, A, I've got a lot of stuff in my head that needs to come out, so that's one reason. B, I've got a lot of songs written since, so, I mean, there's more to add into the option pile. Yeah, but yeah, it's a different game. Before making these two records, I never knew anything about co-writing or, you know, songs that other people had written. Never thought about putting them on my record, but now it's, you know, it's a fun thing to do. It's a cool thing for me to do. I enjoy it.
Very cool. Awesome. Now we're going to switch gears again. I know you're not used to this because I'm taking the wheel here and kind of zigzagging around the road, but you're doing quite well.
These are great questions, by the way.
Impressed with you. Aw, don't just blow smoke up my bottom, really. I enjoy hearing that. I do. That means I'm doing my job. Good. I know that Marshall Dane has meandered over to charity causes in the past, naming the 2 recent appearances, one for juvenile diabetes and, of course, stopping bullying, which you've all heard of before. So 2 questions relative to that subject. First of all, did you endeavor upon those particular 2 subjects because they're personal to you? And second of all, how pertinent is it, and this is in your opinion, of course, for artists such as yourself and the many others that are out there to give back to their so-called backers?
I'll answer the second question first. It's very important to give back to your backers, and by that you mean the people that are supporting your music. And,
yeah, your cheerleaders.
But
yep.
To go back to the first question, I believe in community. I believe in helping each other. I come from a big family that I didn't appreciate until I saw the power of family coming together to help. So when it comes to, helping, I believe artists, I believe anybody that can help should help. When you see, Hurricane Katrina, and then I see people from Canada volunteering to go down, taking time off work and doing stuff, I'm like, wow, that's so beautiful. When I was approached for the very first time to help out with the juvenile diabetes, I had no experience with charities on I don't want to say on a personal, but like on a music level, like me helping with my music to help them, or to raise funds to be part of, the entertainment for the afternoon, that kind of thing. When they approached me, and it was because they had seen me around doing some stuff and they thought it would help, it was a sense of, I don't want to say pride, but you felt like you had an opportunity to help out doing something that A, you love, B, you do it at nighttime at the clubs and at the other bars to help people there put smiles on their face. How amazing would it be to do that in the afternoon for a great cause? And once I did that for the first time, and of course you meet a whole bunch of children that are powerfully getting through their struggles. The children thing really affects me. I really, they can't help themselves. So I really just fell in love with the helping part of it and the feeling that you get back from it. I know that performing music puts smiles on people's faces. That's why I do it. That's what we did when we were kids. It was a no-brainer. There wasn't a TV on. There wasn't a ball being tossed around in my family. It was playing music to have a good time. So, again, with the Stop a Bully Foundation, when they asked me now the second year in a row to help out, it was a no-brainer. Today's environment than it was 15 years ago, and you hear about it all the time on the news about, cyberbullying, how it's taken a different turn. I've seen it in my own family. I've got a little nephew that has had to deal with it, and it's not pleasant, it's not nice, and it's crippling at times, and sometimes it's fatal. So, no matter what the cause, there's a few that I've obviously lent my help to and my hand, but it doesn't matter who needs the help. I'm there to help. So, there's a few that I've taken on for my own personal reasons or whatever, or they've approached, but I'm always willing to give a hand. So, yeah, it's very important to me. I assume it's very important to everybody else, and yeah, it's a good thing. It's an opportunity to give a hand. I'm not much good at construction.
Wow, he's got a fault. I'm totally bummed now. I'm like really disappointed.
You're bummed?
There's something there's something that you don't do well? Really? That's hard to believe. Trust me. That's hard to believe.
I can't draw either.
The dude's got one flaw. He can't draw and he can't do construction. Would you forgive him for that? Yeah, probably. Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't exactly call that a flaw. Oh my goodness. All right, switching gears again. Let's go back to music for a little bit. The wonderful thing about the internet is it allows you to discover little ditties which aren't normally forthcoming. So one of the things that I found out about you, Weapons of the Future, does that ring a bell?
Whoa. Where'd you find that little bad boy?
On the internet?
Okay.
Does that mean it's a good thing or a bad thing? It's like I just called your mother a name. Did you hear that pause?
No. These are beautiful.
Why is she bringing that up?
Parts of my musical past. I haven't heard that name in a while. That's great. What would you like to know about that?
That's right. You know why? Well, you know what? We're going to give Marshall Dane the floor for 2 minutes, and this is what we call in the business called self-promotion, or what I lovingly call is the what, where, when, and why. So give us the what, where, when, and why of that project, and tell us why we'd want to go back and actually buy that bad boy.
Well, I'll start by saying I don't even know if you can go out and buy that bad boy. And if you do find it, that's great. I know I've got just a few copies left in my apartment. Also, I have a few copies of a record that I did before that called $35 in Cheesecake. But that's another story. These Weapons of the Future was my first, it was the little album. I say little because I think we have 8 songs on it? 8 songs.
Mm-hmm.
And
8 songs.
It was the same producer as Running Stop Signs. My $35 in Cheesecake record I'd done just before Weapons of the Future was just a compilation of songs I'd recorded at different times in my life with different studios, so it had no consistency. People would listen to my early recordings and say, what genre are you? We don't, it's all over the map. And I'm like, well, I hear all kinds of things. I don't know. This is just what I do. When I was performing at this club one night, and this guy walks in, and he walks in for a few weeks and watches me, and finally introduces himself and hands me an envelope with kind of like a little resume in it. And he basically says, hey, man, at the end of the day, it was, hi, my name is so-and-so. I was one of the writers on a song you might have heard called What About Love for a band called Heart. And I was in this band, and I produced this and this, and I really like what you're doing. I would like to demo some songs for you and see if you like it, and maybe we could work together. Mm-hmm. I had never had the same producer for 4 songs, and that's what he was offering was 4 songs at the time. So I thought, well, this guy knows how to make a world-class record that ends up on store shelves. And at this point, I wasn't even thinking about that kind of, I was just toying with the idea of, whoa, wouldn't it be cool to have a song or an album on a shelf in a store? Right. So I took him up on his offer, and we got 4 songs in, and then I told him I wanted to do another 4 songs. So we did that on spec, and because I had no money, just a musician income to pay for something this top quality. There's thousands of dollars to do these kind of projects. So Weapons of the Future, and the reason I got the title was somebody bought me a T-shirt for my birthday that year. My best friend had just joined the military, and I was pursuing a career in music, and the T-shirt said, music is the weapon of the future. And I thought, yeah, man. I'm not a violent guy, so I think me taking up music is my way of helping the future. That was my take on it. So Weapons of the Future was my first collection of top drawer, grade A recording in a high class, facility with a great producer. And it was 8 songs, and I could do anything I want. Anything. I wanted African chanting. I'll put African chanting on it. I wanted a banjo solo in the middle of a swampy rock tune. I put a banjo solo in there. There was all kinds of little things I got to do just to play around. Anything. The world was my oyster as far as ideas. Having done that, I now had a little 8-song collection that I could sell properly from my local gigs, and that was really all I was thinking about. I never thought anything further. And then, of course, but what it did taught me was I was capable of at least having the right people around me, at least in the studio sense, to get the kind of recording that could sit on a shelf next to John Mayer and Keith Urban, and it would still sound like my stuff is the same quality. Maybe it doesn't fit on the shelf next to those guys, but it's the same quality. And, of course, then it leads into 2009 or 2008 when I first wrote one of the tracks for Running Stop Signs, and I realized, you know what, I don't belong in L.A. I don't fit in the Toronto, acoustic music kind of scene. I do. I make my living here, but there wasn't enough of me around. There's not enough of me kind of guys around for me to know where exactly I fit, because they all wanted to put me on a shelf. in a particular genre, and I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what that was. So I went to Los Angeles, didn't work out, and then I went to Nashville and found my family like it was night and day. It was a real eye-opener. So, yeah, Weapons of the Future was a great project, and, yeah, it's one of my old ones. And by old, not that old, old enough, older.
Well, it's a good thing.
It's a classic Marshall Dane album.
Isn't that awesome? See, this is awesome. We get to talk about the past. We get to talk about the future. We get to talk about the present. This is nice. I'm digging this. I think we're doing well.
Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, you did go on and quite extensively and very nicely did you accentuate about your newest album, One of These Days, which according to what I've read, you have stated it catalogs where you are, where you're headed, and how you're going to get there. Convince me, the average person, and because, you know, yes, I already dig you, but I also am familiar with you. So let's say somebody's out there listening, never heard of you from Adam. There's fierce competition, as you know, walking into a music store, anywhere else. Tons and tons of musicians out there, people doing the same thing you do. So convince them or convince me or tell your audience, why do they need this CD? Convince me. What is on there? What's worthwhile? What are you most proud of about this compilation?
All right, one, I'm trying to be a funny guy, so a fun and funny guy. So I think it comes across in the music, in Alcohol Abuse, and Take You Home to Mama when Mama's not home, or Stay Up Late, Let's Go to Bed Early and Stay Up Late, Kiss on the Couch, Dance in the Kitchen. I'm definitely a lighthearted guy that likes to present the glass always half full. So you can expect to feel happy. It'll be fun. It'll make you smile. I also think that you're going to, and this is my goal, is to make you hear my sincerity in my voice. And that's not just on slow tunes, even on the fast songs. There's a message, there's a meaning. Every lyric means something. So, you know, if you were looking for an artist that you could fall into the songs, at least that's what I'm trying to do. So I would like to think that you'd be able to get in there and feel the at least the sincerity and the effort to try and be honest. And you know, I try and present myself and my feelings as naked as possible so that people can relate to it without taking my clothes off.
Notice, girls, you had to throw that out there. Without taking my clothes off. See how that works? Cute. Very, very good answer. Okay.
Although I'm sure there's some pictures online where I'm kind of half, you know, clothes, but whatever.
Okay, ew, really? We weren't going to bring nudity into this. And it's not even after 5 and there's no wine. Come on now. Really? I will say this much.
I'm pouring a hot bath right now.
I think it would be in the better interest, for the best way for people to figure out whether they like how you sound or not is just to listen to you. So of all the choices that I listen to, the ones that Michael sent over to me, I picked Alcohol Abuse because I'm very infamous in saying we don't waste things like wine, booze of any kind whatsoever. I'm a huge, staunch supporter of no abuse of alcohol. So I liked the song. I thought it was really cool. I watched you perform it in 4 different areas, 4 different arenas. Live versus non-live, you know, more studio thing, and just got a feel for it. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to be quiet because I'm going to play your song, and then everybody can listen to you. And then I only have 2 more questions, and then our time is over already. Wow. I know, right? It's like the honeymoon just started and it's almost over. Okay, be quiet now. Exactly for 3 minutes and 25 seconds. This is Alcohol Abuse.
Alcohol abuse, shameful waste of precious booze. When a glass hits the chicken wine in front of my face, Jack Daniels was falling like a rain on the face. Then a fight broke down and a bouncer broke a bottle. Over all that noise I heard somebody holler, alcohol abuse, shameful waste of precious cooking, cherry mud, slide, margarita, whiskey sour, straight tequila, screwdriver, hurricane, Shirley Temple down the drain. Every drop we lose is alcohol abuse. Well, the trouble escalated as the cops showed up. They busted through the doors, pulled out their handcuffs. Boys, you need some help, a little rehabilitation. We're running you in for misappropriation. Alcohol abuse, shameful ways to precious food. Ain't no pain, whatever you choose. Old Michelob, Anheuser, Miller Lite, Budweiser, Newcastle, Harpoon, Lone Star, Blue Moon, Dose, Sticky, Amstel, Samuel Adams, gone to hell. Every drop we lose is alcohol abuse. Hey, yeah, yeah. Watch it. Here we go now. Oh, alcohol abuse, shameful ways to precious food. Ain't no pain, whatever you choose. Highball, Bloody Mary, fuzzy navel, cooking, cherry mud, slide, margarita, whiskey sour, straight tequila, screwdriver, hurricane, Shirley Temple down the drain. Every drop we lose is alcohol abuse. Michelob, Anheuser, Miller Lite, Budweiser, Newcastle, Harpoon, Lone Star, Blue Moon, Ghost, Sticky, Amstel, Samuel Adams, gone to hell. Highball, Bloody Mary, fuzzy navel, cooking, cherry mud, slide, margarita, whiskey sour, straight tequila, screwdriver, hurricane, Shirley Temple down the drain. With every drop we lose, it's alcohol abuse. Every drop we lose, it's alcohol abuse.
Wow. Something just occurred to me while I was listening to that, again, because it sounds a little bit different. You remind me of someone very dear to me. The sound of you. And it just occurred to me while I was listening to it. That's a compliment.
Cool. I hope it's, yeah, great.
It's MM. Well, I probably shouldn't say it because they said that you should shine away from saying certain things on radio. MMFT is his name. Matt Mother Blankentiner, who's a dear friend of mine. He's a musician here in Milwaukee. He's actually in my book, and he is the reason I got into radio. You remind me of him, like a younger version of him, actually. And he's cute as a whistle, too, but very, very influential. I give him a great deal of credit because without him, I wouldn't be where I am right now in the radio world. So kudos to MMFT. So I'm going to have to play your stuff to him and see if he agrees with that. That's very cool. And I'm sure that our audience listeners who will listen to this and continue to if they miss the interview today, it's just amazingly written and it's amazingly well. I mean, it's very well done. I mean, and maybe I'm just biased to you, but I just think it sounds pretty cool. Just my thoughts.
No, thank you so much. We had a lot of fun making the song and the album, and I hope it shines through. You know, we were smiling the whole way through.
No, like I said, I only got 2 more questions for you. The first of which, and this is more for the listeners here, if some remote chance that some of you are listening for the very first time and have never heard of this handsome honey, as I call him before, I have a lot of names for you. Let me share with you.
I like Canadian
Mr. Dane here has been, you know what? The only other person who's gotten that title is Keeper. So you know what? You're pretty high in that food chain. If I start putting you in the same category as Keeper Sullivan, you're up there, okay? Because I've been after you for 2 years. So what does that tell you? There you go. Apparently, Mr. Dane has garnished these nominations for both Male Artist and Album of the Year by CMAO Awards. So I just want to quick ask 2 questions in reference to those. Because in the mindset, you know, most of the people I know, including myself, have been nominated for things before. So 2 things on your personal perspective. Are you confident walking into something like that, or is it kind of like a wake-up call, like, oh, my God, I can't believe they nominated somebody like me? And are you familiar usually with the competition? Is it awkward, like if you're all friends and one of you wins and one of you doesn't? You know what I mean? Just kind of take us into that realm a little bit.
So, yes, we're all friends. I'm so new to it that I don't really get nervous because I feel I'm just grateful and happy to be there and to even be put in a nomination state. I'll continue by saying that it's such an amazing feeling when, I mean, in our case, it's a whole province. But if you could imagine a whole state that is backing you, and I mean, I'm a solo musician in the sense that it's a Marshall Dane band. You know, it's not like me and four of the guys that are working really hard to get our name out there. It's me and a little team of friends, basically. So when you get recognized by your province, by that big of a community, it gives you confidence to keep pushing through to the next ridge, basically. It gives you the support. It's like when somebody at the club, you know, at the back of the room that is trying hard not to pay attention, but then you see their foot tapping or their hand tapping. You know you've got them. You know that you've communicated with them. And that's the support you need to continue playing your song great, or whatever. Like, you look for little things like that. So when the Country Music Association of Ontario, you know, piped up and said, Marshall, you're one of our nominees for male artist and for, album of the year, I was stoked, excited, grateful and honored, and yeah, I mean, it just gave you that gives me that boost that you need inside to say, all right, forward, keep going. You know, tough times are tough times, but this makes it worth it. This reminds you that even though there's not a plaque on the wall that says Marshall Dane graduated from the School of Music and forever will be a guy that can hold up this piece of paper and say he knows something about it. It's them. It's your peers. It's the province. It's people that enjoy the music, people that are willing to do the administration for the music, the DJs, the announcers, everybody that's voting in saying, yep, this guy's making a mark and this guy's definitely one of our soldiers that we want at the front of the line. You know, he's working that hard. And I'm indie. Like, I live in my little apartment right now, you know, doing what I do. And so it's been next to other artists that have a lot of different support and, you know, different maybe support system in place. Sure. So yeah, it's a great feeling. It's excellent, and it helps.
Absolutely awesome. Now, before I get to the last question, we have some actual business to attend to, which is before I forget to ask you, I'm going to name all of these things, and please remind me if I've forgotten anything. Marshall has a website, which is www.marshalldane.com. He can be found on Facebook as himself, which is Marshall Dane, and of course he also has a fan page as well. His music can be found on YouTube, Reverb Nation, CD Baby. He's also on Twitter, which is @MarshallDane. Any place else where people can find you on social media?
I think you've got them pretty well covered. The fan page is where I'm doing most of my activity these days on Facebook, so it's just /Marshall Dane Music. But if you go to my personal page, I think you can link to it as well, or you just search it in your browser and you can find it. And iTunes, if that's your format, we're definitely available on iTunes. And yeah, otherwise, I think you've covered them all. I mean, Twitter and YouTube, Reverb Nation, and for whoever else wants to find stuff out there, CD Baby. If you want to purchase the record, if you purchase the record from my website, marshalldane.com, I'll actually sign the record and send it to you. I'll personalize it, so I send them right from my little apartment. So yeah,
from my little apartment. Thank you for that. Okay, good. Now, next thing is we don't want to forget the business of business, which is this. For the next 3 consecutive weeks, February 11th, February 18th, and February 15th, you will be in a city that I can't pronounce, which is called help me out.
Mississauga.
Thank you. See, he didn't embarrass me.
It's spelled like Mississippi. Instead of Mississippi, it's Mississauga.
You betcha. And he will be there consecutively, the 11th, the 18th. Why do I have that in reverse order? Duh. The 11th, the 15th, and the 18th. I can read really well. So those are the next 3 upcoming gigs that I'm aware of. Am I missing any in between time? Or no? I've got all those.
No, I think that's where we're at for February. Come March, we start adding in a few other dates, and April, May, June, we'll see festivals picking up, and then July, August, we'll be rammed.
Definitely. So before I want to forget, before I ask you this last question, I always do this and I don't want to forget about doing this. Michael Stover, obviously, who is the individual who orchestrated this interview. I just want to say out to you, Michael, which, if you're not listening, I'm going to be pretty upset. If you don't go back and listen, I'm going to be even more upset. Always I try to show great appreciation for the individuals that bring me the quality individuals that I'm talking to. Case in point, Marshall Dane. Without you, Michael Stover, this wouldn't be happening, or I would have had to find him on my own. So I just wanted to say a heartfelt thanks to you for the people that you bring to me, for the work that you do. Just hit it out of the ballpark with this Mr. Marshall Dane. I'm very impressed by the class that you bring to me. And one side note, I just wanted to mention, fellow Canadian of yours, Marshall, Leona Buckner, if you're listening to me, you are my friend, my mentor. Thank you for spending the day talking to me and kind of getting my head on straight. You're like a great mom, only without the mom title, and I love you, and I didn't want to forget about that. Sorry, I'm doing a little personal business on your time, but I didn't want to forget. So there you go. On to the biggest and last question. Well, two last questions, but this is an important one. I always save the best for last, which is I always find that just because I've learned everything about you personally, professionally, now I want to find out about you personally. So I did a little bit of digging, and I found out that you're a motorcycle rider, so you automatically get a 10 for that. Absolutely not. I mean, that's a huge 10 for me because I have a whole show dedicated to Sons of Anarchy. So, yeah. I mean, these are my people, so that's absolutely awesome that you do that. You work out, but that's evident just by staring at you, so no one needed to tell me that. The yoga thing I think is kind of odd. I've never really gotten into yoga. I'm like, I don't know why people do weird things to their bodies, etc. I don't get it, but okay, if it clears the head, whatever. So two questions. First of all, let's do the $1 million doozy, as I call it. I'm pretty sure you know that 95% of the women that are listening to this show today are not male. All the women want to know. So I'm going to bust you out right here on radio. So I'm sure you've been asked this one before. So what's your status?
My status?
What is your relationship
I'm still a
status?
single dude.
Yeah. You're lying.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm definitely not a married dude. Let's qualify that for sure. You know, I'm private when it comes to my personal life.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. You can ask me anything. I've said that before, and by that I just mean that I found out the hard way that you know, my world went completely online, and once you make the decision to make, you know, so much of you available to the public, you then tend to regress, or other things you tend to hide and keep to yourself. So, for instance, I don't tell people where I'm doing my yoga because the very last, I had this great place in my little town, but they ended up closing down, and the very last day that I was there, they didn't even turn the lights on, and there was somebody there pulling out their phone to take a picture. And I go to yoga. I mean, that's another story, but I mean, I studied martial arts for a lot of years, and when my sensei moved back to Portland, I decided that I would take up yoga for the you know, cleansing the head kind of thing, and just keeping it, you know, just like a meditation, just a calming part in your day where you can do some stretching and, you know, and test yourself a bit. And so I found that so much of me can't be private. And I want to share so much of myself that I tend to now, you know, keep my personal life. Like, I don't go out in my own town anymore. If I do, I put a hat on and a big winter jacket and go sit quietly at the back of the bar.
Wow.
Pardon me?
I don't even do that. You're like so celeb now. I don't even do that. I walk out like
it's a small town. It's not a big town. But yeah, so I mean, so that's the status, is that I am.
Actually, you really are single, huh? Really?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time. Yeah, I'm just having a hard time with that. I mean, oh my God, really? Okay, I got 3 more personal questions for you.
Looking for Mrs. Right. Pardon me?
That's a whole other show we're going to do. You know, because I almost thought about this the other day. Michael and I were talking, and Michael and I are good friends. And I said to Michael, I'm like, find me somebody for Valentine's Day. I want to do a Valentine's Day show where I have a guy on that's attractive, preferably single, and that the chicks want to, you know, see. And not only that, let's face it, I'm single too. I don't know what it is about me, and you probably haven't even looked at me because you barely responded to me. Oh, I just busted you out on my idea. I told you I was sarcastic. So you probably don't know what I look like, but I'm just like, I have the same, no, you know, I find the same issue. You know, it's difficult when, you know, I tend to gravitate, you know, people tend to gravitate to me and that's lovely, but then once a guy gets to know you, they realize who you know and who you circulate with, and then it becomes, you know, they don't really like me for me anymore. It's like, oh, you have a show and you have a book, and then it's like, well, yeah, I'm just in my pajamas with a hat on. I'm just not anything special, you know. It's kind of tough. So I have 3 more questions that will turn you red. So remember when you told me that I could ask you anything? This is the part where I will ask you anything, because I can.
Anything. Go ahead.
All right, any ink?
None. 0. And at one point, my whole band, nobody had a tattoo. I think now, actually, I wonder if my band now, I'm trying to think, no, I don't even think any guys in my band have any tattoos. Piercings, but no tattoos.
See, this is shocking me because, honestly, I would have thought for sure you would have had ink. Why? Just because of motorcycles and my yards and such. Oh, my God, look at that. My goodness. Well, so much for my idea, because you know I'm coming to Canada, right?
I might have to get a tattoo.
I'm getting a tattoo, and I'm looking for somebody to go with me. You know, you take the motorcycle, ride to the parlor, get your thing. Wouldn't that be awesome? That's like fun. You know, you're talking about the dancing in the kitchen thing. For me, that's kind of like my dancing in life sort of thing. You know, I mean, I'm getting old, I have children. You know, you do those things. Okay, boxers or briefs? Girls want to know.
Boxer briefs.
I want to know the truth. Oh, good answer.
They're boxer briefs. Right now, they are blue and red striped.
Look at that. See, you came one step ahead of me. I tend to usually come unprepared, or I should say come without, just because when you're on radio, nobody looks at you, and nobody looks at me, so I'm like, okay, fine. 2 other questions for you. As it relates to, just tell us a few things that would surprise your fans as far as to, you know, there's an image that you project being a musician and who you are. On the personal side of things, just things that people wouldn't expect to know about you, like maybe you're a closet nerd, or you watch science fiction, or do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Let me see here. I love to cook.
Really?
Although I don't know how, you know, it's not really weird or, you know, but it is something that I do on my personal time. I mean, just this afternoon, you know, I threw some butter in a big sauce dish and threw some garlic in there, and I cut up some onion and threw some pepper, and I'm just kind of letting that simmer for a little bit. And, you know, I'll just cook on the side while I'm, you know, working around the house. I like the smell of good food in the house, and I find it very satisfying to make a nice, great-tasting meal that's, you know, and or just experiment. Yeah, I studied martial arts for a lot of years. That's another little tidbit. On my personal time. Pardon me?
What do you watch on TV?
I don't watch too much TV. If I do, it's when I come home. The only time I really watch TV is if I come home from a gig late at night. And, you know, so whatever's on at 3 o'clock in the morning, which in my television programming, I think I'd probably get, let's see here, Family Guy, I get CSI and Criminal Minds, and I might go back and watch an episode of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I'm a big fan of, you know, like the X-Men and the Avengers and Transformers and stuff like that.
See this little tidbits we got out of Marshall Dane. I wonder how many other interviewers got this information, because I'm betting.
No, I don't think I've ever said anything like that on an interview before.
Yes. Okay, so in our last 11 minutes, because I've kept you far longer than I probably should have, it's customary on my show, and you've never been on my show, for me to tell you what I think of you. I always take the last 30 seconds or so to tell the guy or girl what I think of them. And why? Just because it's all fine and good for me to ask questions and for you to answer, but sometimes I think it's important for you to know how you reflected upon someone such as myself. And I think it's important just in general. So you need to be quiet for like 60 seconds. People have had weird reactions when I do this, so hopefully this will go well for you. So my impressions of Marshall Marshall Dane. First of all, I have a hard time saying his name, so let's just say MD for future reference because it's much easier for me. And if I ever needed a doctor, God knows he's cute enough to be able to do it. Marshall Dane, my reflections on him are as follows. Obviously, everything I learned about Mr. Dane all comes from the research that I've done, from the amazing Michael Stover who's given me information about him. So this is what I know to be true. Eclectic is the first word that came to my mind when I thought about him. He has a stage presence that's very different. He's not flashy or showboaty. He doesn't walk up on a stage and start gyrating his hips around and wanting all sorts of attention. So his humility and his just, I don't want to say lack of courage, but just humility, I guess is the best word for it, shines through 100%, whether he's sitting in front of an interviewer or whether he's sitting in front of his stage. I can see where you have the facility, you facilitate your need to be accepted by your audience and by your community. And that's very clear in just watching all of the different things that I've looked at. You're sassy, you can take a punch really well, which is kind of nice, and by that I mean a proverbial punch, obviously. I see that you are not living the grandiose life of an individual that's an indie artist who all of a sudden got his thing the next day. You're working and gravitating towards something which I find to be amazingly respectable. I adore what you do with your craft. I think that you're original in the right of you don't take anything for granted, any opportunity. You're gracious, you're professional, you're funny, and you're out of the ordinary. You're not a guy I'd walk up to in the middle of the street and guess that you were a musician, to be honest with you, which I think is part of the intrigue. I think that you've been entertaining. I think that you have definitely made me feel a whole lot better. I know for a fact by this last hour I've come to find that a few of my friends have now become fans of yours and will be buying your merchandise, by the way. So that's always a good reason. And I hope in the next 30 seconds when I offer you these two opportunities to work with me that you'll think that I'm special enough to do business with me in the future, because I surely do not want to hang up this phone and know that I'll never speak to you again, because you're pretty special. How's that?
You will never hear from me again. I'm just kidding. You know, I can't, thank you enough and or, even find the right word to say, how nice it was for you to say those things. It's very kind, it's gracious, and I appreciate your opinion, your thoughts, and I appreciate that you have that you like me by the end of an hour. And I would love to come back and do another interview and talk more about personal life, business life, and things going forward. It's my pleasure.
Yes, definitely. The three things on the big table here that I want you to remember as we leave you here is the obvious, which is, of course, there is a possibility. I have 3 show ideas that are roaming around, one of which could easily end up in Canada. And if it does, you're the first person I'm asking to be a part of that. But I have to get financing first, so don't get too excited. But I will need music, so obviously, musician galore. Second of all, I know that you're not big on this, but certainly ponder it over and think about the idea of, I have a brand new show called Since Canadian Connections, all things Canadian. So you have to be Canadian to get on the show. In all right, in all fairness, I should probably ask a Canadian artist to compose an actual song for the show. So if that intrigues you, you should certainly let me know. And finally, finishing off, if I do a book a year from now, would Mr. Marshall Dane like to be included since he's now been a guest on Sin's Chat Corner?
I would say affirmative to all those things. Definitely keep me posted on any ideas you have, because I'm always open to do stuff. And as far as your book, I would love to be in your book. And if I write a book, I'll put you in my book.
Oh, my God, look at this. Now, the only other thing I can ask you is this. As I mentioned, I'm coming to Canada. If you don't cook for me, I'm going to be pretty mad. I'm just throwing it out there right now, because apparently you don't cook, so put up or shut up.
You better like garlic.
I can live with whatever you got to hand to me. How's that sound? What can I say? It'll be the next 3 months.
I've got the dish.
Okay, this is a good thing. Just don't forget about me, Mr. Popular, because if you get famous in 3 months and I'm forgotten, yeah, I'll probably cry for about 4 minutes or something. No, of course not. I'm here to encourage, and I absolutely love that. And thank you so much for spending all this time with me. I really appreciate that. The last thing I wanted to ask you, which is evident, I'm assuming if anybody goes to your website, they can purchase off of there directly, meaning any of your music.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Just go to the, there's a media page that has music, or you can watch videos or whatever. But, yeah, just click on the music page and click on which album you want to sample. And then if you want to buy it, just click on the Buy the CD button.
Wonderful. Let's hope that I've garnished you all sorts of business after today's show. And just to remind you, you can let everybody else know after this is now finished, it will become an archived episode tonight. So anyone can go back all year round and go ahead and listen to you, listen to your music. And again, like I said, next time something comes up and you need some airtime, give me a holler. I will be around and I'll be in touch about all these other opportunities.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, gosh. Anytime, my darling. You have yourself a wonderful weekend, and we'll be talking soon.
Sounds great. You have a great day, and thank you to all your listeners. I appreciate them tuning in.
Thank you. All right, no problem
at all. Ciao, girl.
You take care. Okay, that was Marshall Dane. Before I forget, not do my job one more time, www.marshalldane.com. He's located on Twitter at @MarshallDane. You can find his music on YouTube, CD Baby or Reverb Nation. And once again, Facebook, he has a personal page as well as, of course, his fan page. So please be sure to check him out. I will also be doing a full write-up on my show page as well as my personal page this evening. Thank you so very much to everybody that was listening in. I will go ahead and post because off of memory and the sinus headache, I can't recall who's on the show Monday. But I'll keep you posted. You all have yourself a wonderful weekend. I'm going off to rest and hang with my children. You take care now.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really? Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really? Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.